here today is just to give you a little insight as to what we're anticipating for the year 2018 as far as values are concerned. A few months ago, before you all adopted your tax rate, we brought you some information as to where the history of evaluations are as far as values are concerned for the last 4 or 5 years. It's still pretty consistent that you're not going to be looking at more than 4%, could be a lot less. Some of it might have a little bit to do with what Hurricane Harvey did, but we're not Port Aransas. That's where the big effect will be. Right now we're looking anywhere between 3 and 700 million in difference from one year to the other in value for Port Aransas. That's a city and a school, and that portion also belongs to the county of Nueces too. There's some portions on there too from the outlining areas that'll affect the city of Corpus, but not as much. For the most part, most of your high-rise or your multi-residential properties throughout the county of Nueces are pretty much done. We still have a few maybe that will create a little bit of new improvements. We do have several subdivisions throughout the county, whether it's in the island, Port Aransas, in the rural end of the county, that are new subdivisions coming in. But at the same time, though, it's not going to produce a big increase in value for this coming year. It's a forecast. We're also dealing with lawsuits. Residential and some of the smaller commercial properties, we've got a total of about maybe 70. Is that about right, Tom? Of those. And then of that, we have the big lawsuit. And the big lawsuit, of course, is with Flint Hills. And that's the other reason that we're here today, is because we're looking at the year 16 and 17 for lawsuit, possibly 18 as well. And we thought we had basically had an agreement as to what the final outcome would have been. But as of the month of December came and left, they were supposed to have gotten back with us to make sure we have all the accounts, because you're not dealing with 2 or 3 accounts come to a refinery. You're dealing with multi-accounts. And that's part of the concerns that we have. Also, too, in the conversation, they were supposed to have made an early payment to the school district in Tolosa Midway. As of today, I don't know whether they've done that or not. The thing that I do know is that they're not coming back to the table, as far as we know. We're still looking at the year, the plant itself, roughly it's at 925 million. From the year before, and this is part of what's the history, for the year 16 and 17, the plant value was pretty much at 747 million. Why they sued in the year 17 for the year 16, we couldn't figure that out as well. The same value. There was hardly any kind of a change. But their main conversation with us has been that this is what Valero did. Why can't we do the same? Well, there's different animals altogether. Okay, they also claim that they're not your top 10 taxpayer. They're below Valero. But when you put things together, you're going to find that Flint Hills is your number 1 taxpayer. They've got an abundance, twice as much of real estate than what Citgo or Valero or any other refineries have. They also have inventory that's a little bit more than what others have. On the per barrel, they're pretty close with Valero on that case. But other than that, value is what's going to dictate who is a little bit bigger and smaller. In this case, Valero, I believe, is sitting at about 827 million as far as the plant itself. Doesn't include real estate, does not include personal property, does not include inventory or any of the other little categories. There's about 6 different of them. All we're dealing with is with plant. And just so you know, those lawsuits that are pending can be very expensive. For the last 2 years, we've started a fund to address the issue as far as legal is concerned. And that fund will terminate at when we peak at 2 million. I think that's for 4 years, 500 a year. We're in the process of our 2nd year. What that money is we utilize for is basically for legal experts, as well as possible other law firms that we might need to do for this legal lawsuits. So we just want to be prepared and wanted to let you know as well that even though they come in and say that they've employed several people, they're giving $100,000 or $200,000, whatever it might be, to a fundraiser for Fiesta de los Niños. That's said and good, but it doesn't say that they want to pay their fair share of taxes, and that's what our concern is. Because if they're not paying their fair taxes like they should, then the homeowner, the normal owner, is going to pick up that slack, and that's where your tax rate has a lot to do with what everybody else has to pay. So taking that in consideration, too, the other problem that I have is that they seem to want to talk to other individuals rather than us. In other words, they'll go talk to the school district about how sad they are. They'll go talk to the county about how sad they are. That's not what they're supposed to do. Ethically, it's not the right thing to do. It's been brought to their attention, and it's going to have to stop. In other words, they're trying to talk to them to come back and talk to us about lowering values, and that's not going to happen. Made it very clear. If they want to discuss numbers, they need to come talk to us. And whether they come to you all, I would wish, if they do, that you send them back to the appraisal district, and we can go from there. And that's any high-end property owner. Otherwise, you're going to have an open door to where anything like this in the future happens. They're going to come talk to you all. And that's not what you want. That's our job. But like I'm saying, we're not giving you gloom and doom, but the property values are not what they are. And they're on the lower end for these next couple of years. Port Aransas is going to be on a 3 to 5 year fix as far as to try and get back to where they need to be. So again, the city of Corpus, like I'm saying, is probably going to be hovering at 4% or less. We don't anticipate a big change throughout the county of Nueces. In fact, it's going to be pretty dismal for this coming year. Decline.
About a 4% for Corpus Christi.
Well, that's what we certified this past year, was 4%. In years past, you were 8 and even 10%. But that's why I tried to give you a graph as to where your values are, and they're on the downside. They're not on the upside. Economy is still fairly good, but it doesn't mean that there's a lot more apartment complexes coming in that's high end, or condominiums that are coming in that are high end. What it's saying is that there's several subdivisions that are coming in, but those are going to be normal, but those will be offset by other areas of numbers that are going to be on the negative.
And that 4% doesn't take into account the hurricane loss.
No, that was your certified numbers last year, Joe. And see, in this year, we're looking at maybe a lot less than that. Hopefully we can stay between 1 and 4. But it all depends on what values are in the market and what we're dealing with today.
But on the island, I mean, they had $30-40 million just on the island.
Port Royal had $25 million one property.
Right. See, and then we have some other condominiums. I think this morning we were discussing the Catalina and possibly the Breakers that are also in real bad shape. So those are things that we're looking at right now, and perhaps between now and April, when we put out preliminary numbers, you will grasp exactly what we're trying to tell you, that the numbers are not what you think they're going to be on the high end. They're going to be on the low end. Just want to make sure that we're prepared to do what needs to get done when you get ready to adopt your budget. Be very frugal with what we do from here forward. For the last few years, that's the way it's been. So other than that, do you all have any questions for us?
As they said.
And I'm sorry you guys have to go to lunch after this, but, you know.
Well, we may need the time to go throw up or something. I don't know. But, any questions? Mr. Smith?
Okay, so if I understand you right, Mr. Canales, we're looking low end 1% for our next year on tax valuations.
A little bit more, maybe,
okay.
but I cannot.
Yeah.
I cannot come down and say it's going to be a 3% solid or no. If I were budget, I would be budgeting 0.
Okay.
Just to be on the safe side.
Okay, so you've been in this business for not years but decades. So that would be your advice to staff is currently to budget at 0.
Well, like I said, just be frugal. Be alert to the fact that the numbers are not what they were 2-3 years ago. They're on the downside. Hopefully, we'll have some type of infusion coming up this year with oil and gas. Most of your big property owners, that's your refineries, your industrial area, those are very key to what we do here every day. Other than that, we don't foresee a lot of new big money items that are going to create a bigger increase in value as time goes.
Okay, and that really goes to my next question, that you mentioned that the plant valuation on Flint Hills is $925 million as
certified for last year.
as certified. We're being sued by Flint Hills for 16 and 17?
Yes, sir. And possibly 18.
And possibly 18. So if Flint Hills would prevail, or like in Valero, you said a settlement, we could be looking at having to give a fair amount of money back?
Yes, sir. See, the county and the school district, and I'm sure all the other entities that are involved, Delmar, they've been putting money aside just in case we have to settle or whatever. So this last conversation that we did have with Flint Hills, the idea was for them to get rid of the year 16 and 17. We'll work with you for 18 and possibly the future. But their concern was then that they're going to start wanting a certain number, and I said, no, we cannot do that. We will not do that. And we're basing it on a year-to-year basis, period.
Okay, and so $925 million, that's what the plants. Do you have an idea what size that plant is and throughput?
No, sir.
Mr. Wheat?
What was your question?
What's the throughput on it?
The what on it?
Throughput, barrels a day?
Whole barrels, that's
330,
I think.
more or less, a day.
Yeah.
That I think is close to what Valero's.
330, 310.
Okay, so it's 310,000. I'm just looking. They're going to build a new refinery, a simple refinery, not a complex refinery like Flint Hills in Duval County. 50,000 barrels a day. You know how much that's going to be? 500 million. So you're carrying on the books a 330,000 for 925, and they're griping about it.
See, and then on top of that, Mr. Smith, just so you know, there has been an infrastructure increase of 600 million. That terminates in the month of June or July of this year. That's when it's finally finished.
Okay,
Of that 600 million, it's not part of the 925 million. That's not even in there.
Okay.
Their argument is that it's zero value.
Okay,
That
so
even gets more interesting for us.
600 equals zero.
Yes, sir, according to them.
And we just got a memo on Valero that, so Valero was valued, what, 800 million?
827 million.
827
More or less.
million. They did a $350 million capacity addition. But it was valued at 820. And on our industrial district, for the first 4 years, we don't get any taxes. So it stayed at 820, but they say, oh, no, 350 is new, so that in effect lowered the value, correct me if I'm wrong, to 475 on the old stuff. So we lose out. We got a $1.7 million hit. We got 2 more years to sit on it. And I think Valero, the same thing, 300 and something thousand barrels a day. It's classified as a complex refinery. Both these refineries have a lot of petrochemical. These are good refineries on there. And I just have trouble. 500 million is what it costs to build a new one, and 1/6 the size on this. So we got hammered. How much did we have to give back with Valero when we settled that? We took that from 800 million to 400 million in 16.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the city, what would that be?
Did you want to respond?
Yeah.
Because we have the industrial district agreements, like you had said, new improvements are at zero. And so with this decrease in valuations, it was a total of 1.7 that we lost. Well, it wasn't really lost. We had budgeted for that amount, but we did not receive that amount.
And we've got 2 years left to go.
Correct. Yes, sir, you are correct.
So that $300-something thousand, highly complex, high Nelson index refinery is carried at a fraction of its price.
Yes, sir. See, and we've been working with the city on basically getting numbers that they provide to the city to make sure that it's the right number that we have as well. In the past, we had not had that information, but I mean, it's something that as time goes, we've been able to learn as to what we can and cannot do. These guys are very good at what they do. That's why they make the money. We are limited with resources, and we're limited, of course, with money. $2 million is really, It just gets you just to where maybe we can contact some good experts. But what these guys do too, they'll go to Chicago, they'll go to California, they'll go to different parts of the United States to contract or just put on retainer an expert to where we can't have access to that expert because of the expertise that it has, because it's conflicted with that refinery. And then you go to the state, you talk to your governor, you talk to your state representatives, and it's hands off. And then the governor today is pushing a 2.5 increase on what your revenue could be. Instead of if it's 10%, then you go at 10. He's saying it's 2.5. Plus, he's also pushing for the fact that you want the board of directors to be elected as well. Doesn't make any sense because the people that are serving on that board come from the elected institute here. But that's just part of what's going on right now throughout some of the things that we have to deal with. There's been a lot of new changes made that we have to implement. It makes it harder for the appraisal district to put things in place, but we seem to overcome every year. That gives compliments to our staff.
Okay, so the long and short of it, we've got an expensive fight that we're going to be funding our pro rata share for this.
Yes.
We may not prevail in this, so we'll probably take if we settle, you had a proposed settlement, we'll take a budgetary hit. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Because you based it on, yeah.
You based it on the high-end number.
Yeah.
And then if it's going to be a lot less than that, that's where your hit is. And basically on a settlement like that, you don't want to give into their attorney's fees, and you also don't want to give into penalty and interest. What we settled with Valero, that was basically it. The refund came from the city, a little bit of it, the county, the Del Mar, and then the school district. The school district, CCISD, ended up paying almost $10 million in refund back to Valero. But the difference between the school district and the other entities is they can go to the state TEA and they get up to 80 cents to $1. To where the city, the county, the Del Mar, it's up front. They don't get no refund from any other entity.
Okay.
That's what the big difference is.
Yeah, we can go to our citizens and our streets aren't repaired and our parks aren't cut. Yeah, that's our option on it.
Yes, I know.
So,
And that's why I'm bringing it to your attention today, that they need to understand that they need to pay their fair share. They might think that it's not equal and uniform, but from the experts that we have, we feel that it's pretty much equal and uniform. In fact, we might be on the low side.
Yeah, I think if we look at Citgo's valuation on there, that's a good statement. Well, thank you. I've taken enough time.
Ms. Opal?
Mr. Canales, thank you for this information. My math skills aren't quite where Mr. Smith's are, so we're going to do a little remedial work here. I will say, based on the conversation that you and Mr. Smith had, it's very kind of unsettling ways that, as you alluded to, the corporate social responsibility is an effort to go to the community and be well received, yet on the backside they're coming to us and trying to paint us in a corner where already we're 1.7 million in the hole. That's really kind of what I ask you. When you say zero, we're not even at zero today as we move into this budget that we're going forward. We're already 1.7 million in the hole because of some interpretation and shenanigans. So from a dollar amount year over year, what do you think is going to happen to our budget? Is it that negative 4%? Is it zero? Is it more than that? I mean, what do you just, there's a looking glass I'd like for you to look through, but we really are, we've got some financial challenges coming up here.
And that's what I'm trying to bring to your attention. This is I've always tried to be as conservative as I can with the numbers that we give you as far as preliminary numbers are concerned in the month of April. 2 or 3 years ago, even last year, by this time I more or less knew what the numbers were, and normally I have that conversation with Constance just to keep her in the loop as to what we're doing. Same thing with Mr. Waterman at the county and some of the school districts as well. Have an idea, but at this point, I don't see that 4%. I see less than that. I think staff is looking at the same thing, but we don't have the exact numbers yet because part of the problems that we have today is Port Aransas. We're still crunching numbers for Port Aransas. That also doesn't include what's going to happen between now and April, preliminary numbers, because here's what we do in the month of May. We pick out 3 Saturdays, maybe now it's going to be 4, We go out to each area. In other words, we'll go out to the rural in Robstown for one Saturday. And we take anybody and everybody there from probably 8:30 till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so long as people are there. And they can come from anywhere. Then we go to the island. It's either going to be in Flower Bluff or in the island. We do the same thing there. We take staff. It's about 30, 35 people with laptops. We have our printers. We set up in the gym or wherever we can get accommodated so we have computer access. Then from there, we go to Port Aransas, City Port Aransas. We've been doing it for the last, I guess, since the year 2012. And that's what we do during that time. That's to eliminate people coming into the office as much as we can, especially for them having to come all the way from either the rural or from Port Aransas. It's a good trip. And then the other thing, too, is what that does, too, it keeps the traffic away from the office because during the week, we're pretty much busy. Last year, we did in the office, not including people in those satellite offices on those Saturdays, we did close to 21,000 plus. Those are people and accounts.
And those aren't people coming to ask to raise their property values, right?
Yes, it's going
They're
down.
going the other
Yes.
way. So if we were to take last year's property tax collections and we just dropped it by 4%, that's just the basic place to start. Is that what you're suggesting? So whatever that number turns out to be, like I said, I'll wait for Mr. Smith to do the math. But that's, so we're 4% down off of last year's property tax.
What I'm just saying is
That's
that,
guess,
that
right
we're
now.
on the downside.
Yeah. So if we started there, we wouldn't be wrong. We could be pleasantly surprised and not be 4.
And I think that's the reason why Eddie and Constance are zero budget.